So we've got less than 30 minutes. And basically what I wanted to do was get some insight from companies that are really using data analytics as, leaders in using data analytics in their businesses. And Jim, I know is, and Matt, I know is too. And so what we find a lot of is, in the work that we do, is that most companies are really early in using data effectively in their businesses. Even some digital businesses that you'd think would be actually quite advanced, and I can name you quite a few that we know and some of which we work with. And the journey of getting from, hey, I've got loads of data, to I'm going to change my business or use it to generate new revenue or new business models, whatever, is actually quite a long journey. Either it's, the internal transformation journey for most large organizations is pretty slow and painful. What tends to happen is people focus on the technology and build Hadoop clusters and that kind of thing, rather than focusing on a business problem and delivering that first. And so what I wanted to do was Matt and Jim ask a couple of questions just to help, give you guys some ideas of the kind of things and the kind of thinking that leading companies in the space have already done. And I've got 6 questions, but there's no way we're going to get through 6 questions in 20 minutes. So what I might do is actually maybe get an interaction from the audience. There's 3 questions on that page. What I might do is put your hands up and say, which of the 3 questions shall I ask first? So, the first question, put your hands up for all the people who want me to ask the first question. Okay, the second question? Okay, 1 person. No, 3 people. The third question. Oh, come on, guys. That was less than 30% of the audience put their hands up. You've got to put your hands up, or I'm going to decide, right? I'm going to do the first one first, which is, it says up there if you can read it. Now, this is a stupid question for Jim, but tell me how data is, which parts of the business are using data to its fullest extent, and which parts are still, I'll tell you what, before we do that, why don't you introduce yourself? You did a talk this morning, right?
Yes.
How many of you heard Jim talking this morning? All right, so we don't need to do intros. And how many heard Matt? Okay, 1 person. Maybe Matt, you can introduce yourself and what you do.
So Matt Doubleday. I'm a lead data scientist at Shop Direct. They're the company that own the Littlewoods and the very exclusive brands. So online retail.
Cool. So the first question: what are the key parts of your business that you see?
So I guess Connected Homes is built around products that connect stuff up in people's homes, and so data is at the heart of that, really. So we've started out with a heating product, and so a heating product, by its very nature, takes data about temperature and uses that to turn on and off your heating. So data's in there from the very kind of fundamentals of the product. So in terms of what are the key parts of our business that use data, well, we've kind of grown up with it. Right. So from being a really, really tiny outfit, there's always been data there. So I was brought in as head of data analytics when there were 50 people. So that's the kind of stage at which the company started thinking about that. So it's kind of really embedded, actually. So it kind of doesn't feel... I appreciate in larger companies, there are pockets of data, but that's not kind of like that for us.
Going back to the history, right? Obviously part of British Gas, right? British Gas, large organisation. Where did the realization come from that actually, data is going to be great and we're going to have to use it? And by the way, we need to build it up from the ground up like that, because the realization of that is actually not there yet.
Yeah, so I think with Connected Homes, there was an early realization that these devices were going to generate a lot of data. And to be fair, I think at the point when I joined the business, the question was, we know there's going to be a lot of data, but we don't know how valuable it is, we don't know what to do with it, and that was part of the kind of early days of fleshing that out. So, I guess you're right, we didn't start from a fully fleshed out view of what we would do with that data, but we knew that we would be generating a lot of data from sensors, and the question was, well, how do we use that?
So from our earlier conversations when we met up, one of the things you said was actually getting stakeholder buy-in for this. You have to go and sell it in senior execs. Yeah, maybe you could talk a bit about that, because I think one of the challenges with all this data stuff is getting senior business execs to understand the value of data and how you sell it and communicate so that they understand what could happen from it.
Yeah, so I think one of the things I guess probably everyone in this room faces with data is that you have to start collecting it and analysing it and cleaning it before you have any clue really what the value is going to be. You probably have a gut feel that it's valuable, but it'd be very, very hard on day one to write a business case that said, invest this amount in collecting and storing and processing data, and therefore get this return. And so that kind of gives you a hard problem. And I think the way that we approached it was we started really small. We started with just a couple of people and a kind of rag bag of free and open source tools, and just started playing with the data and just started giving people a sense of hey, look, we found this, look, we found this, we found this. And over time you sort of build some trust up that every time we give these people data, at some point they come back with something valuable that we didn't know before. And I think over time you kind of build up that trust, because you have to do it on gut feel.
Yeah.
You can't go and say, right, hey, give me £6 million and I'll come back, hey, trust me.
Yeah. Matt?
So the original question.
Yeah, the first one. Yeah. So ShopDirect being an e-commerce company, you'd expect that you guys are data-driven, there's lots of data stuff going on, and everybody understands that, the value.
Exactly. I was finding it hard to think about, is there a part of the business where I'd say that data doesn't play a part?
Cool.
I'm really struggling.
Yeah.
To go back to ShopDirect, for those who don't know our heritage, we've been around for over, in fact, Chandan gave an overview earlier. We've come from a catalogue heritage, so we've been a distance selling retailer for a very long time. We've made the migration to online recently, but actually data's been core to what we've been doing for years. And it's not just from a marketing side, it's from a logistics side, tracking the parcels. It's from FS, understanding customers' credit risk. It comes from strategy, understanding your position in the market. I mean, some of the data is bigger than others, but it's all got a part to play to help the business move forward. So struggling to say that there's a part of the business that data doesn't play a part.
That's the point that I wanted one of you guys to say, is actually data is part of every business and it infuses into everything that an organisation, company does. So the next question, which is not necessarily on the screen, is most companies, like Jim mentioned earlier, aren't actually that organised with their data. So maybe, I don't know how much you can reveal or how organised, considering you've been around for 100 years and catalogues and whatever, the reality of how organised is the business with the data. So you're smiling, you see. So
we talked about governance earlier.
Yeah.
That's got to be key. I think different companies will be different points along their life cycle. Because we're quite mature, we've got a lot of legacy systems, and we're in the process of upgrading our legacy systems and trying to move to some of the newer technologies, the newer platforms, experimenting with Hadoop and Cassandra. That's today's technologies. In 10 years' time, they're tomorrow's legacy technologies. So there's bits around governance and bits around keeping up with technology as well that we've all got to deal with.
And so are you saying you're early in your journey then? Or
we're on a journey.
Okay.
And the journey will continue, and it's not going to stop. So we've been using enterprise data warehouses for a long while. They've been around since 80s, 90s, 2000s. Big data platforms, they're a lot more recent. We're not an early adopter there because we've had prior technology that we've been using, so we're now beginning to adopt this technology. I think you'll find that many established enterprise companies are in a similar situation to us. But it's an imperative to evolve and keep pace with the market and keep pace with competitors. There's been some great use cases today that have been fascinating and been inspiring as well, particularly like some of the healthcare examples. But it's keeping that pace with competitors, because if you don't keep pace, and they will, and they'll outstrip you.
And so in your department, the head of data science, have you already used data to build new models, to build new something?
Yes. So for most you won't hear from a talk earlier, I gave a brief overview of about half a dozen different use cases, and then another slide flashing up another 15 or so. Traditional propensity modelling, looking for somebody to respond, looking at online attribution to match demand to the channels that have driven it, looking at image or pattern recognition for for the app on the very mobile website, so you can scan a product or a pattern, and we'll bring back products or dresses that match that pattern. We're constantly using and thinking of new ideas and new solutions. Again, referring to an earlier talk, ideas are cheap. It's what you do with the idea and how you can, well, from our perspective, how you commercialise that idea and make it a reality that's important.
So one of the challenges is prioritisation. What do you do first, second, third, fourth, fifth?
Yeah.
Because you can't do everything all at once.
No.
And the data is organised. So how have you decided what's the most important thing, and then going and saying, well, where's the data to do that thing? Or did you say, we've got this data, we're going to do that? And which?
Okay, let's go back a few years. So one of the changes that we made is, because we're very traditional and catalogue focused originally, and we started making the journey to online. Like many companies, we had web analytics tools. This was all aggregated information, actually not stored on our servers, they were stored somewhere else. And it was great for getting a view about what was going on the website at an aggregated level. But there's loads of information in there that we could use to for benefits to ourselves. So if we brought that data down into our ecosystem, there was various use cases that we could apply. The question was, how could you persuade the business and the stakeholders that actually there was value in this, because there's an investment there. And the secret was to try and look for some killer use cases or killer apps, size up the potential opportunity and come up with a business case. Now, for the web data, if you're a retail company, you probably do this anyway now, but at the time we were looking into this, abandoned basket campaigns were a theory. They weren't something that people were doing. But that was a killer use case that we could present to the business to get a trial for bringing online data into our ecosystem, and once we did, we found lots of other use cases, much like your suggestion, trial and error, and then again, you get your benefits case, get the stakeholder buy-in, and move forward.
Cool. So, given that both of your companies are in the consumer end of business, the last question which more people put their hand up about was around the use of that data, given it's personal data, potentially. What kind of issues have you considered are facing, have solved, worked out around that, Jim?
So, I mean, clearly, we're collecting data from inside of people's homes, which kind of gives it a different flavour than if I visit your shop, right? So we have to think fairly carefully about what we do with it, and clearly there's a whole range of things that you can do with it, from just a purely what's feasible way, from stuff which is really, really useful to stuff which is not useful and ethically not the right thing to do. And I think we have to be very conscious that data from inside people's homes, it's their data. And what we do with it has to be useful for them as a customer. And if we don't do that, then we will rightly get caught out, and we will destroy our brand in the process. And we've got no intention of doing that.
So, do you, in the business, is it seen as the data is owned by the customer and you're custodian of it? Yeah, that's
how I think about it. That's how my team think about it. This is quite granular data, like I say, from in people's homes, and clearly we use it for a bunch of stuff, but we try and make stuff which is has utility to the customer, and most of what we're focused on, certainly in my team, is not so much about getting general overall insight out of the data. I mean, that kind of comes as a bit of a byproduct. But most of what we're focused on is using that data to feed back directly into products that people use. So for example, by modelling, one of the pieces of data science we're working on at the moment is to take temperature data from Hive. We can build a thermal model of someone's house. From the temperature data that we measure, we can work out what the parameters of that thermal model are. When we can do that, our intention is to be able to help people understand, when they set a central heating schedule, is that going to cost them a lot more, a bit more, a little bit less, or a lot less? And you can only do that if you've learnt what the parameters of their individual home are. So that feels like a really useful thing to do, because at the point when we all set a heating schedule, I mean, who has any clue as to what's the difference between setting it at 20 degrees or 21 degrees? It's kind of really difficult to know that. So being able to feed that back to people as they control their heating and give them more of an indication of, this is a choice that you're making. However, it has a financial implication, and that's fine, because if I choose to have my house toasty and I accept the financial consequences, then fine. If I'm in the mode where I want to reduce my expenditure, that's fine as well. But you're giving that transparency to the customer because you've used their data in order to feed back to them something which is actually really very useful.
Cool. Matt?
So data privacy and governance, there's actually better people at Shop Direct that can answer this question than I. And the reason for that is that we actually take it very seriously. So we have an information security team, we had a data compliance team. We all have to undertake data compliance and data security training. It's mandatory because it's important to everyone. To echo your points, we are custodians of the data, but we need to treat this with care and respect.
So, I mean, one of the key things around consumer data, and you've got huge amounts of data around e-commerce transactions. How much of that do you use to personalise the experience the customer gets? Because that's, it's the Amazon's model around personalisation and recommendation, which is not done very well, but, part of the e-commerce experience anyway is about recommending the right things that somebody might want to buy. How much of the personal data do you use, and what is the perception?
I'm not certain if I can put a percentage on it and say it's 5% of the data we use.
But
I can tell you the sort of things we use the data. I can tell the things we use data for. So it's not just about personalising the website experience as well. It's about trying to make it easy for everyone. So we do on-site tracking, but part of this, as much as anything, is to keep an eye on how the checkout is performing. Are there parts of the checkout which is causing customer struggle? And if there are, can we improve that for everyone as a whole? Personalisation is a layer above this, so that can we make something specifically personalised or more relevant to you, but not be intrusive at the same time. It is all about making it easier for the customer and trying to assist her on her shopping experience.
And so one example is using social media data, which is available. If you know the customer and you know their email address, the potential of getting a lot more information about that individual is there.
It is. We're not using social media data in that context yet. And for things like Facebook, you need to effectively, they need to agree.
Sure.
So, yeah.
But
the potential is there, and if we did use it, then obviously we need to be cognizant of privacy concerns. We need to be cognizant of ethic concerns.
Cool. Yeah. So it's going to be easier for me to open it up to questions. Anybody have a question from the panel? There's one here. Mic set.
With the title of the panel about how to be data-driven, if I look at different teams within my organisation, there are different scales on that. So from the very early stage of work out something on gut feel, decide what to do, and then at the last stage, check the data to check it makes sense. And at the very other end of the scale is nothing is thought of that isn't triggered by seeing some kind of data. And I guess in my role, I would love to move more people from the left to the right. And what are some of the ways that you guys have managed to do that in your organizations, and what are some of the tools that have helped to do that?
I'll confess I'm not certain I like either end of the scale entirely. I'd prefer people to think about being data intelligent as opposed to being data driven or data enabled. So to give a use case here, I think that's the way to do it, by the way, is to find use cases and get them to work. So a use case currently looking at is trying to help our buying and merchandising teams range plan. So how big should a range be? What's the depth of lines? So we can look in the data, we could look backwards and see how it did in the past. Was there exceptional weather that affected past sales? We could perhaps even look into Google AdWords and Google Trends to see what words are picking up in terms of popularity. you can't take away from the buying and merchandising team that they know the product, they know the market, they know what's coming. So if we can help inform the debate, and we can make them data intelligent, but we can't drive it. It's about marrying up domain knowledge with data.
Yeah, I really like the kind of data intelligent thing, because clearly, if you take product people, they might go out and talk to 15 real people, and they'd come away with a very qualitative rather than quantitative view on what to do. And that's the right thing to do for a product. And if you've ever sat in on a user lab, you'll know that you kind of come away with an emotional reaction to something which you're never going to get through numbers. And so the numbers on their own are not the only thing. I think the other thing I like about your sort of data intelligence thing is I found kind of early on that lots of people around connected homes were doing things like tracking the average this and the average that and making decisions on that. And I really sort of tried to get across to people, it's like just look at the distribution, don't keep looking at the average, and just understand a bit more about, dive into the data a little bit more and encourage people to explore and play, and not just go with the kind of easy to calculate and put on a dashboard average, and just become a bit more intelligent about their understanding of what makes up data and how you make decisions around data.
Cool. So as we're running over time, I'm going to ask both of the panelists on the last question, really. What is the future look like? I know it's going to be more of the same, but I really think about what your businesses will look like in 3 years' time. If you said, right, broadly you'll know where you want to go. So give the audience a picture of, okay, in 3 years' time we'll be doing 2 things. What 2 things would they be, which are driven by the data journey that you're going on?
So for us, I think it's ease and personalisation. So we'll be endeavouring. Well, the website and the customer experience, we will have made it easy for everyone. As easy as we can make it. Who knows? That might be via mobile apps. It might be by smart TV. It might be buying via your watch. So that's one element. And then, as well as easy for everyone, easy for you as an individual as well. And that's where we're heading.
So I think so. So the personalisation aspect, actually, if you look at where utilities have come from, it is a one-size-fits-all industry, and as it gets more competitive, as it becomes easier to change suppliers, that needs to change. We need to have a better relationship with our customers. The conversation we need to be having with our customers is, hey, energy is actually amazing. You could not live your life, or I could not live my life, if someone wasn't piping energy into my house. Imagine if you just didn't have electricity or gas, your life would be pretty miserable. Or mine would be anyway. So changing that conversation, and I think how do you do that? Well, you need to be talking to people in real time. Energy is quite a low interest category. Your direct debit goes out every month. You don't really notice it. You maybe notice the bill when it comes in, and you look at a number and you think, oh my god. But changing that conversation, making it more real time, and helping people to understand, what am I doing now that is using energy. People are clever enough to make their own choices about how they use energy, as long as we can tell them how they're doing it, and then also give them the method of controlling that really, really easily.
Cool. I think we've run out of time because we're over by half an hour, I think, for the whole session, and everybody's having drinks outside. So thank the panelists, and thank you everybody. Thank you for coming.